We also, I think some of them were reported in the newspapers like The Independent. And I believe as well that the flight manifests for those planes contains no aeroplanes. So how the FBI managed to identify them so quickly just baffles me. Because, I mean, you know, the first 24 hours after the attack is chaos anyway. Nobody has a clue what's going on. So it's quite amazing that these guys were identified so quickly. And yeah, some of them people are still alive.
There's actually an American colonel called Don Grand Prix, retired now from the Alex Jones show, and said that the plane was flying towards Washington. I would say Flight 93 with some caution, because there are reports that, in fact, Flight 93 was seen at Oklahoma Airport that morning and was nowhere near Shanksville. But certainly something was shot down that was going towards Washington. And I want you to imagine a moment here, because what do people say to us about 9/11 is it's so easy to expose. Surely it can't be an inside job, because they wouldn't make it that easy for us. And I think the answer to that question is that 9/11 went wrong. That plane that was going towards Washington was supposed to come down on Capitol Hill or the White House. In those circumstances, it would be very easy for the American government to declare martial law, to suspend the normal rules of democracy and free speech and so on. And anybody who thinks this is fanciful, it is a matter of public record that Jeb Bush declared martial law in Florida on the 9th of September 2001. He's run John the gun. And I believe in those circumstances it would have been virtually impossible for 9/11 to come out. And then, of course, it would have been much easier for them to go straight into Afghanistan and straight into Iraq. It was only because we still had a free press and we could still become informed. And even in those different circumstances, we managed to make it difficult for them to invade those countries. So we have a moment, and this plane is heading towards Washington. At that moment, world democracy hangs in the balance. And because people from the American military shot it down, we are saved, essentially. And this Don Grand Prix, or something Alex Jones show, there's no doubt he's spoken to the general who was involved in giving the order, knows the name of the pilot who fired the shot, and the pilot has been interviewed since then and not denied it. And it's an important point to bear in mind here that it was the right thing to do as well to shoot down a plane in those circumstances, because you have about 80 people on that plane. If it comes down on Washington, you could kill thousands. So although it looks like a difficult moral decision, it's in fact an extremely easy moral decision. If fewer people die, the sooner you shoot it down in the field, basically. And of course, there is no evidence of debris from a plane in that field. The coroner says there's no bodies. And in fact, one of those curious things you pick up, there is seismic data to show that a bomb was exploded in the ground at 9:22 that morning. So what it appears they did is they blew up a bomb in the ground to look like, to create a crater that they now claim is where Flight 93 went.
Yeah, Roger, I think.
Talk about shadow government, okay, the alerts government says we've got all these draconian powers now, right? Like say emergency, war, state of war, etc. Why do they want that power? What's the point? I mean, why would they create such mayhem, kill innocent people to get those powers? Is it purely for oil? Okay, I mean, the US obviously imports not 40% of all, fair enough. But then if you go and drill in Alaska or the Arctic, that it'd save money. It'd be cheaper to do that. What if it's invade countries? What's the reason?
Well, I think the reason they did it in Iraq was because of the timing. It's all right saying that you've got to get oil out of the ground in Alaska. That's going to take some years, isn't it? And they couldn't really trust Saddam to supply oil to them, so they had to. It's not just about oil, as I said in the screen, it's about high finance as well. So as long as there's monopolies on using dollars to buy oil, the dollar's safe, because people need dollars to buy oil. But once you start selling oil in euros, and people don't need dollars anymore, they'll choose euros because it's a more stable currency. But why are they doing this? It strikes me that this is quite obvious. A generation of people who grew up in the shadow of Vietnam, for example, or saw the craziness of the Falklands War, a manufactured war if ever there was one. I'm not saying old people think like this, but we've all seen that stuff, we've all seen the pointlessness of war. And really, the ruling class is not taking the people with them on this one. People are very very sceptical about these wars and so on. And they clearly realised that no matter how much media they control, how many messages they bombard us with, how many adverts they pay for, they in fact can't persuade us that what they're doing is right, because anybody with half a brain can see it's so fundamentally wrong. So in those circumstances, they have to accept that the people are not going to be on their side anymore. If the people are not on their side, how do you control them? There's a massive prison building programme going on in this country at the moment, even though all surveys show that crime has fallen. Similarly, in America, I've seen footage of what look like concentration camps. Enormous buildings with barbed wire on a fence to stop people getting out, with rail tracks going into these compounds. Anybody thinks the idea of people living in camps is fanciful? You say, well, how many New Orleans? People live in the centre of New Orleans, or the poorest people in America, are still living in camps now. And there's absolutely no prospect of their homes being rebuilt and then being rehoused in New Orleans. The New World Order has its own agenda. And when I used to battle these people, I used to try to think what their values were, because you've got to understand your enemies are people. And the conclusion I came to is they have no values other than their own power. They all use an alternative argument, a left-wing